Hey, welcome back. Keeping our eye on the top story today. Elizabeth Warren out of the race for the presidency in the Democratic primary side. Looks like Bernie Sanders is already vying for her to endorse him. Other lead story right now, right down the street at the New York Stock Exchange, there is an avalanche of selling happening right now. Dow just broke down through the 1,000 points down. So it's like up 1,000 Monday, down 800 Tuesday, up 1,100 Wednesday, down 1,000. Stay calm. Namaste. There's bigger problems happening out there. And helping us solve one of them is my good friend, Rafael Manguel. He's a fellow and deputy director of legal policy at the Manhattan Institute. Regular guest on the show. Thank you for joining us again, my friend.
Thanks so much for having me.
So I cannot figure this whole thing out, this whole Bernie thing, why the millennials like him, other than he's saying everything is free. But on top of free, he's got this new proposal for national bail reform where he wants to set criminals free. So this guy's really taking it to the next level. I know you've been really focused on the Manhattan Institute here with New York's bail reform law. Just for people out there who are thinking about Bernie and this national bail reform, how's it working out here? And then I want to get your views on how this could really be bad nationally.
Well, it's not working out so well here, right? There are a few things that are going horribly wrong with bail reform in New York, and that's because of how bail reform went about it, right? In New York, we are now the only state that does not allow judges to take into consideration public safety risk at any stage in a pretrial release decision. It makes New York an anomaly, right? So it puts us beyond the sort of national scope of the bail reform debate. And what we're seeing is that when you start releasing large numbers of criminals in a short period of time, crime starts to go up, right? And of course, it's too early to definitively link bail reform to the crime increase, right?
Rough.
Exactly.
Let's let all the criminals out and see if there's more crime.
Exactly. Even if you assume a steady rate of offending among that population, if you grow that population, that's going to mean more crimes committed by the people within that thing. Now, if you take this national, right, you have to be very, very careful about how you go about it. Every major metro that has undertaken a significant bail reform effort has seen some kind of blowback in the form of new crime. We saw a really great piece done by the Chicago Tribune a couple weeks ago looking at what that city did. And what it found is that crime really did go up a significant amount. I mean, I'm talking more than 10, 20 murders that would not have otherwise happened because they were committed by the offender while that person was on bail. And nationally, historically, that's something that's always been a factor in our crime numbers.
Not quite as high as the 150 million murders that Joe Biden said would happen in Chicago.
Half the U.S. population out.
But let me ask you this. I know you got a great new study out, I guess came out today, that, when they're talking about bail reform and they say, some of these people are parents and they need to be with their kids, it's more important for that. There's actually, an increasing amount of information around the fact that some of these recidivists are better off in jail to get them away from their kids.
That's right. I mean, it's one of the more kind of potent talking points about criminal justice reform in the United States, right? This idea that you're breaking up a family, that you're depriving a child of an income earner, of a role model. And it's intuitive and it strikes a chord emotionally. The problem is, though, is that it relies on an assumption that has a pretty shaky base when it comes to the available evidence, right? The assumption is that the sort of people who are likely to end up incarcerated are capable of being good, emotionally stable sources of economic stability, being good role models, being, present parents. And when you look at, for example, the rate of antisocial personality disorder among prison inmates and jail inmates, what you find is that oftentimes kids are, in fact, better off with parents in jail, in at least some cases. And that's something that doesn't really get recognized in this debate.
So I guess there's some evidence out there that suggests, you give me the number, but there's some crazy high percentage of most of the people that are incarcerated are recidivists.
That's right. Yeah, 83% of released state prisoners will go on to reoffend at least once.
At least one time.
At least one time.
So this is not exactly the shining example that you want in a kid's life, because 80% of these people that are incarcerated, they've been there before, and they'll probably be there again. So maybe it's better, you know, if there's a strong mom in their life and the dad is this recidivist loser, maybe it's better to lock him away and have the kid not look up to a criminal.
That's right. I mean, look, again, we have to be very careful to make sure we're saying that this is not good for a child, right? It's not good for a child to have a parent incarcerated. The question is it better than having that parent present, right? And the biggest chunk of the psychological research that I've been able to familiarize myself with pretty much points in one direction, which is that the benefits of a two-parent household can be entirely negated when one or more of those parents is characterized by a history of antisocial behavior. And I think a lot of criminals, unfortunately, fall into that category. And it's something that we have to really start incorporating into the framework of this debate.
Let me ask you this. You know, I live here in New York. I feel like, you know, the homelessness looks like it's getting a lot worse. And I feel like a lot of times when I see these homeless people, and it's a big problem in Cali and San Francisco, most of these people I feel like have mental disorders in some way or another. You know, maybe the antisocial, but maybe even more, right? Sure. And out in San Francisco now, they got this DA who's just got this crazy record, and they're letting these mentally disturbed homeless people just basically run amok.
Right. I mean, the idea is that is the compassionate response. But when I think about places like Skid Row out west, and I look at, you know, the destruction that's on the street, the open drug use, the sort of self-victimization, I can't help but fail to see compassion in that. So I do think people need to really start rethinking these policies with that particular population as well.
And you would agree with me that this whole Bernie Sanders plan for national bail reform to let all these recidivists free is crazy?
I think we've got to be very, very careful and really look at the evidence, and I don't think that's something that the Sanders campaign has done well yet.
I'm going to ring the bell. When me and the guest agree, I usually ring the bell, but Rafael Mangual is one of the best when it comes to this stuff, especially on legal policy. He's a fellow and deputy director of legal policy at the Manhattan Institute. You got to come back and join us again soon, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have to stay right there because we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to get a little word from our sponsors. And, you know, Roger Stone's in the news a lot lately because this judge is still thinking about giving him a new trial or not. She's sentenced to, you know, 4 years, 40 months or something. And the guy who did the documentary, Get Me Roger Stone, award-winning Netflix documentary, Dylan Bank, producer and director of Get Me Roger Stone, joins me next to talk about it.